Morning, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes on this Thursday, the 7th of March. Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're back to our regular start time tonight, and we'll be talking about the next storm system, which is already starting to rear its ugly head as we have winter storm warnings up for parts of Nebraska and northeastern Colorado, and also some of the mountains in central Colorado seeing some winter weather advisories. First flood watches are up for Georgia. There'll probably be some more before the day is out. And we've got flood watches up for southwestern Maine, left over from this storm system that is still going to be a problem today with regards to gloom and doom. You can see on the satellite, we still have a lot of clouds to work through. There are a few breaks showing up on the back side here this morning, but it's going to be a little bit of a struggle today to get this out of the way. But once we do, we'll finally catch a short break, and that's going to be for Friday. Meanwhile, the Pacific subtropical jet is streaming moisture out of the Pacific and into Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. We're seeing the beginnings of the next storm system that's going to impact the eastern part of the United States on Saturday and the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and down into the south for Friday into Saturday. And let's look at the radar this morning. Still seeing some leftover rain as of 8:15 a.m. Eastern time, with some moderate to heavy rain now up in Maine. Still a few heavier showers back into southern New Hampshire. Lighter rains as you head south into Connecticut, and still a little bit of leftover precip over eastern Long Island. But gradually, this is going to disappear as we go through the rest of this morning into this afternoon. Rain is now developing and some heavy downpours and even some thunderstorms popping up in parts of Oklahoma and into southern Kansas, as well as southern Missouri down into Arkansas and into central Texas. We've got a little bit of snow in northeastern Colorado, some precipitation in southern Nevada and into Arizona. Most of the west, though, is on the quiet side for now. WPC uh, for some of this has still got leftover rain for today in Maine, but for southern New England and points southward, we're looking probably at another 3/4 of an inch to maybe as much as an inch for late Saturday into Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Across the southeast and south, we have an area of an additional inch and a half to maybe as much as 2.5 inches. We're going to have some severe weather risks in the south and southeast on Friday and Saturday. Severe weather risks are to the west of that today in the southern plains, and that you see precip of 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half there, and as usual in the northwest, looking at from northern California up the coast, several to many inches coming over the next week. And speaking of severe weather, this is the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for today. Two areas of slight risk: western Oklahoma to southern Kansas. Also in central Texas, this comes with an elevated tornado risk of about 2%. And severe weather tomorrow, a bit more widespread from East Texas and Southeast Oklahoma eastward into Alabama and westernmost Georgia. And here we have a 2 to 5% tornado risk being indicated, particularly from East Texas to southern Alabama. And then day three, and this is Saturday into Sunday, we've got a marginal to slight risk for the southeast and the Florida Panhandle. Also, general thunderstorms are being pushed up almost, but not quite to New York City. Draw a line from Sandy Hook to Buffalo, and that's the northern edge. I think we might see this get pushed up a little bit further to the north before it's all said and done. Snow through Sunday morning, looking at 50% or higher probabilities going on from parts of northeastern Vermont across central Maine in the eastern part of the United States. And in the west, we're looking at a fairly widespread area probability for at least two of 70 to 100% up and down the state of Colorado, especially the central part of the state, northeastward into northeastern Colorado and into parts of southwest Nebraska. If we put the probability for at least eight, we just see a couple of areas where that's elevated to about 20% and a small area of 50% down in western Colorado. And on the long range, when we look to Sunday into Monday with this next storm system, uh, area of 10 to 30% through much of upstate New York, 30 to 50 and 50 to 70 in the Adirondacks, also in southwestern New York, because we're going to see the lake effect machine get turned on, and high probabilities of 30 to 50 and 50 to 70% across northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and on up into the northern half of Maine. So, looking at what's happening here, we've got a low that's centered off the New Jersey coast this morning, slowly moving out to the northeast this afternoon. Once the winds turn around to the north and northwest, we should finally be able to scour out most of the cloud cover, and that'll happen for sure tonight and into Friday morning. So the eastern part of the United States should have a decent day tomorrow. Meanwhile, you see this low in northern Texas that moves northeastward with rain during the day tomorrow, and then we'll start to see the possibility of some thunderstorms and severe weather tomorrow night from eastern Oklahoma eastward across into Alabama. The low center at this point by the early Saturday morning is sitting north of Chicago. I think we're going to probably see the first part of Saturday be okay, but as this low moves eastward and the front starts to push eastward, we'll have rain coming in. I think probably by Saturday, later afternoon and evening from west to east, and then the winds are going to pick up from the south and become rather gusty. I don't think we're going to see wind advisory criteria, although there might be a few places Saturday night where we see gusts up to 40 miles an hour as that low heads up just northeast of Lake Huron by early Sunday morning. Then it redevelops in southeastern New England and in the Gulf of Maine and starts to really strengthen. And we'll get the rain Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then after that, northwest winds will pick up, and the gradient gets very tight in the northeast for Sunday night, Monday, Monday night into Tuesday, and then even during the day Tuesday, it'll still be rather breezy. I think we'll on the back side of this low is where we will see wind advisories for gusts of 40 miles an hour from the northwest. And the good news here is that this is the last storm in the series of storm systems that we've been dealing with. This is the fourth one in 8 days. Well, once that plays through, I think it sets us up for dry weather for much of next week. We may not get to deal with any rain until maybe next Friday, and you can see a system starting to come out in the south. Whether it impacts the eastern part of the United States or not for St. Patrick's Day weekend remains to be seen, but the models are indicating some sort of front with a wave on it, perhaps for Saturday the 16th. And then after that, it looks like the spring season gets to the point where it officially starts. Guess what? That's when we're going to turn to a colder weather pattern for the last 10 days or so of the month of March and maybe even into the first part of the month of April. But remember, during that time frame, the normal temperatures have risen by 10 to 15 degrees from the upper 30s to the low and mid 50s. So cold is a relative thing. So we'll review all of this tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and that will be at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time.